So good evening and namaste everybody. We are studying Vedantasara and we are on text number 33. So what's going on here is that we have just been told the method of Vedanta, of Advaita Vedanta, is superimposition and desuperimposition. In Sanskrit, adhyaropa apavada. So what's going on in Vedantic texts is the superimposition or desuperimposition. What is meant by this? We find ourselves in a peculiar situation where we do not truly know what we are. We have mistaken ourselves for these bodies and minds and this universe. We have mistaken Brahman for this external universe. So what is actually the absolute existence, consciousness, bliss? We experience it as subjects and objects, I and the objective universe. This is a mistake. This is what we have where we are right now. So this is called superimposition. In Sanskrit, adhyaropa. This is already done. Now the task of Vedanta is to correct this error. And remember, what is the goal? Once this error is corrected, the promise is we'll be free of the sufferings of samsara. When we know ourselves as we truly are, we'll be free of suffering. Now, what Vedanta has to do is twofold. One is, it has to start from its claim that there is an absolute reality, what it calls vastu, reality, existence, consciousness, bliss, non-dual reality. And then it has to show. It's not enough to say that there is Brahman and that's the teaching. No, it has to show how is that related to what we are experiencing. If we are to learn anything at all, we have to relate how the one has become the many, or the one appears as the many. From the one to the many, a bridge has to be built. If I am that absolute reality, how do I find myself in this particular soup, that I am this body and mind subject to birth and death? If I'm immortal, how is it that I find myself being born and aging and dying? If I'm beyond suffering, how is it that I suffer from physical illnesses and social problems and mental suffering? If I am infinite, why do I find myself limited? So this is from my side. And the world that I see, if it is one reality, why do I find diversity there? If it is beyond good and bad, why do I find good and bad there? Why do I find difference? That it is different from me and things are different from each other. So the many, all of this is called the many. How did this many, how is it related to the one that Vedanta is talking about? So the first part is superimposition. From the one that Vedanta claims to what we are experiencing, Vedanta must draw a bridge. It will, so that's what's going to happen. It's going to show us, Vedanta is going to show us how, starting from Brahman through the agency of Maya, this entire universe appears. And then the second part will start, negating this error, correcting this error, which is called apavada. We will be shown that actually we are not these bodies and minds. We are witness consciousness. Actually, this is not a diverse universe. Actually, in reality, it is a homogeneous existence, being itself. And this consciousness which we are and this being which is appearing as the universe is one and the same. So this is that Atman is Brahman. That will be shown. That is the second part of it. Apavada, negation, correction of an error. But first, the contours of the error have to be shown. How did this happen? How do we come to be where we are if Brahman is the ultimate reality? So that's what was going on. The text defined what is adhyaropa apavada, the method by which the Vedanta teaches us is superimposition, desuperimposition. Defined first, what is superimposition? Superimposition is basically error, making a mistake, taking something for what it is not, taking Brahman to be this universe, taking pure consciousness to be this body-mind. So it says, just as the rope which is not a snake is mistaken for a snake, in the same way, Brahman, which is not the world, is mistaken for the world, is mistaken for samsara. So that is called adhyaropa, superimposition. Now, in saying this, the author used two words. Taking the precise definition of superimposition was taking the unreal for the real, avastu for vastu, or even more precisely, superimposing the unreal on the real. So it used two words, avastu, the unreal, and vastu, the real. So superimposing the unreal on the real, or the false on the real, is what is called superimposition or adhyaropa. Now, having used these two terms, vastu and avastu, reality and unreality, or real and the false, now they have to define it. What do you mean by what is real? Define that. What is false? Define that. So that's what's going to start now. What we are going to do today is, beyond any doubt, beyond any comparison, the most important two concepts in whole of Advaita Vedanta. Nothing compares to what we're going to talk about today. Brahman and Maya. That's all that there is to Advaita Vedanta. So Brahman and Maya, the concepts of what is Brahman, the ultimate reality, and what is Maya. These are the two things we're going to talk about, and both of them will be talked about today. So text number 33. First Brahman, and next we'll look at Maya. So first it has to define what is reality. What is reality? Why? Because superimposition was defined as the superimposition of the unreal on the real, taking the unreal to be the real. So what is real and what is unreal? Text 33. Vastu Satchidanandam Advayam Brahma Ajnanadi Sakala Jada Samoha Avastu. Reality is Brahman, which is without a second, and is existence, consciousness, bliss. Unreality is nescience or ignorance, and all other material objects. What does that mean? So this is something that we have to memorize. If there's one takeaway from the entire book, it is this text number 33. What is unreal and what is unreal? What is real? Vastu Satchidanandam Advayam Brahma. Reality is the non-dual Brahman, which is existence, consciousness, bliss. And what is unreal? Unreal is Ajnanadi Sakala Jara Samuha Avastu. From ignorance downstream, from ignorance downwards. The word used here is ignorance for a certain reason. What he means here is Maya. So from Maya and downstream from Maya, whatever are the products of Maya, everything is unreal. It's false. It's an appearance. So first, what is real? Brahman is real. According to Advaita Vedanta, Brahman is real. Advaita Vedanta is very simple. It's very, very austere kind of philosophy. The only reality is Brahman. And everything else is an appearance. Appearance of what? Of Brahman. And so all that you have to understand is Brahman and how you are Brahman. The world, everything that we experience is an appearance, and that's it. The work is done. What is Brahman? The word itself means the vast. The Sanskrit derivation of the word comes from a root which means to expand without limit, the vast. That's all. Vast what? No qualification, not a vast sky, not a vast house, not a vast consciousness, nothing, just vast. A vast, then what else do we know about it? Brahman is Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat means existence, that which is real, that which is. Again, I want to always encourage everybody to relate it to our experience. Advaita Vedanta at its core never makes any claim which is beyond our present experience, always available experience. So at the core of Advaita Vedanta. So the core claim is the reality is existence itself. What do I mean by this? So the book exists, and the shirt exists, and the body exists, even my thoughts exist in some sense. So all of this, the universe outside, tables and chairs and buildings exist. Vast things like galaxies and quasars exist. Tiny, tiny things like atoms and subatomic particles, superstrings exist. Now, Advaita Vedanta wants us to think of existence itself. I mentioned a few days ago, I talked about the greatest of questions. Heidegger, the great German philosopher Heidegger, talks about the greatest of questions. What is existence itself? Why do things exist at all? The question of being or existence. And Advaita Vedanta is actually an answer to that question. It's to take existence itself as the reality. We are so entranced by existing objects, people and animals and plants and non-living things, and big and small, They're all objects which exist. But what is existence itself? We don't think it, there are philosophers who would dismiss the whole question as an illusion set up by language, a common language philosophy. Advaita Vedanta is just the other way around. It says the question of existence is the only question about reality. Everything else that you think you're dealing with reality, you're actually dealing with illusion. And language is the very stuff of illusion. So the very fact that language cannot talk about the ultimate existence, Brahman, shows that that must be the reality. If language can designate it, if language can talk about it, it must be unreal. Anyway, so existence itself, what does it mean? Look around yourself. Things exist. Now, can we conceive of, can we try to change our paradigm of looking at existing things and think of existence itself? When you look at thousands of waves in the water, think of water itself. It's so easy that the water itself is the reality, and the waves are dependent. They are arisings and playing about in water and disappearances in water. Water is the substance there. Just like that, just as water is the reality of all the waves and all the bubbles and foam, can we think of existence itself as the reality of everything? This very experience we have of isness, this is called Sat, existence itself, not an existing thing. So is it an abstract concept? No, no, no. It is, in fact, compared to it, other things are abstract concepts. Would you say that a necklace or a bracelet or a crown or something, golden ornaments, those are real, and gold is an abstract concept? What nonsense! Gold is the reality. Compared to gold, the ornaments are abstract. They are names and forms and functions, designations. Gold is the actual thing. Similarly, Advaita Vedanta insists being or isness, or in the term used, Sat, is the actual thing, is the reality. It is the reality of the universe. Every existing thing is nothing but name, form, and function, nama, rupa, vyavahara, imposed upon it. See, I'm explaining all of this. The author will not explain on any of this. Why not? The author is just going to go ahead, because remember what the author wants to say. Author says that this is the thing to be realized, Brahman, and this will become clear by the method of superimposition and desuperimposition. So he's going to launch on superimposition and start and just tell you that there is a reality like this, which is existence, consciousness, bliss, non-duality, and stop, nothing more to talk about it. Now let's go ahead and see how we have come from that to this position, and then go back from here to that, and hopefully in this whole process, the thing will become clear. I am dilating upon it. What is this Brahman? So first of all, Brahman is Sat. The word used is Sat, means pure being in the Heideggerian sense. If you want to talk, have a modern philosopher as a cognate. So being itself, isness itself. We always are aware of it. We are it actually. Inside, outside, that being is everywhere. Imagine you are sitting, not imagine, actually the fact is you are sitting in the midst of an ocean of being. Every object that you see is a wave in this ocean. The table is a wave in the ocean of being. The chair you're sitting on is a wave in the ocean of being. The planet is a huge wave in the ocean of being. So is the galaxy. Everything is a wave in the ocean of being. Being itself is Sat. Then the next thing it talks about is Chit, Satchidananda. So the reality, Vastu, is Chit, consciousness. Now consider it from the perspective of our experiences. What is the common denominator of all our experiences? Experiences, I mean thoughts, feelings, perceptions, ideas, understanding, memory, desires, all of this, what constitutes our conscious first person life, all these experiences, what's the one common thing in all of them? Seeing something is different from smelling something else. Tasting something is different from listening to a talk. Reading and understanding something is different from enjoying a piece of music. Hating somebody is different from loving somebody. But what is common and essential and cannot be dismissed for every type of experience? It is awareness, consciousness. I'm using the words indiscriminately. Awareness, consciousness. This bare awareness in itself, this bare consciousness in itself, is what Vedanta calls Brahman. And what is the relationship of this awareness in itself and the existence in itself? They are one and the same thing. They are one and the same thing. It doesn't seem to be so. If you look around the world, you'll see there are so many things which exist. So there is existence there, but there doesn't seem to be awareness. For example, in the table, in the book, or in the laptop, is there awareness? In me, I am an existing thing. In me, there is awareness. But there are so many things in the world which are not aware. Doesn't seem to be aware, at least. But then again, you must notice that all those things which you consider to be not aware, books and tables and piece of rock, or space itself, all of them are appearing in awareness. It is like a dream example is a powerful example. In the dream example, when you see a dream and you don't know it's a dream, you are there in your own dream. There are living beings and there are non-living beings, and it will feel like the living beings are conscious. They not only exist, but they are also conscious. They have existence and consciousness. And we feel like non-living things like rocks and rivers and tables and chairs are non-living. They have existence but no consciousness. It will feel like that. But when you wake up, you will realize the whole thing was a projection of a conscious mind, the dreamer's mind. That's an example. I'm not saying that the universe is being projected by a mind. What I'm saying is even deeper. The universe is being projected by isness awareness, Sat Chit. Sat Chit, isness awareness. Further, Ananda, Satchid Ananda, bliss. This bliss is not a feeling, and yet it is. So let me explain that. What is the meaning of this Ananda? The meaning of the Ananda, to put it simply, is Purnatvam, wholeness, completeness, the lack of any limits. Now, it is not a particular feeling, just as Sat is not a particular existing thing. Ananda is not a particular blissful feeling, just as Sat is not even the collection of all existing things. Similarly, Ananda is not the collection of all happy feelings, all happy faces. No. Just as Chit, consciousness, is not a particular kind of conscious experience, rather the underlying reality of all conscious experiences. Similarly, Ananda is not a particular kind of bliss, but it's rather the underlying reality which manifests as all kinds of fulfillment. It is fulfillment itself. It is completeness itself. It is the sense of being unlimited. From that comes all experiences of being fulfilled, happy, satisfied. So, or you can say it is value in itself. When we seek things in the universe which have value, we are actually seeking for Ananda, which is unlimited value. So let me put it this way. Anandam is equal to Anantam, infinite. The infinite nature of existence and consciousness expresses itself or can be designated as Anandam. Does this mean there won't be happiness when you realize you're Brahman? Of course there will be. You'll be much happier than you are now, but that's not what is meant by Anandam. It can manifest as that the happiness of the peace or the fulfillment of an enlightened person. Did you notice somebody asked, you may not have seen in a video, I wonder if it was in the conversation I had with Rupert Spira or elsewhere, somebody asked him, so as an enlightened person, are you happy 24/7? Are you like bubbling over with happiness? He said, no. My experiences are very much like yours, except that he knows that fulfillment is his, completely undisturbed. It cannot be increased, it cannot be reduced, it is illimitable, and that manifests as happiness or a fulfillment. But not that all the time you're walking around with a smiley face. Anyway, so Sat, Chit, Ananda, pure being, pure consciousness, pure bliss. Or in other words, being itself or existence itself, consciousness itself, and bliss itself. Or in other words, isness, awareness, unlimited. Unlimited isness awareness. I'm actually translating from the Taittiriya Upanishad, which has the best, so to say, definition. Why I'm saying so to say definition? Because there's not directly a definition. You cannot define the absolute. But anyway, Taittiriya Upanishad has the closest approach to it. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Brahman is infinite existence consciousness, isness awareness. I will not go deeper into it. Those who want to dwell on this, because the author is not dwelling on it at all. I've said much more than the author has said. Those who want to go deeper into this most important subject, what is the absolute according to Advaita Vedanta, I will refer you to my talk, Defining God. I've given this a couple of times. Let me give you the link. So this is the talk in Vedanta Society of Southern California. So this talks about the definition of God, Brahman, in more detail. And this Brahman is Advaitam, non-dual. By what is meant by non-dual? Duality means two or more, more than two also. So there is something apart from apart from an entity, then it's a dualistic universe or a dualistic reality. But if there's an entity from which nothing else is apart, then that is non-dual. How does that work? So we, for example, when we look around, I see here there are 62 people on Zoom, and we feel we are all different. We are differently located, we are differently named, we look different. So this difference, it's duality. Each is separate, each is not the other. They're countably different entities. This is dualism. By dualism, I mean two or more entities. But suppose there is an entity from which none of these 62, indeed nothing else in the universe are different, then that would be non-dual with respect to everything. Example, again, the water and the wave example. When you look at the waves and try to count them, you may count thousands coming and going. But if you count water, then you cannot count any wave as a second thing. Water, one. Then this wave, that wave, no, they are the same water. You cannot count them apart from the water, because then it will be double counting. So every wave, every bubble or little bit of foam, everything is that water. When you count water, only one. There is no second thing in the ocean apart from water. I mean, just as far as the waves are concerned. In that case, instead of, if you look at those 10,000 waves, with respect to those 10,000 waves, water is non-dual. Water is non-dual means, with respect to water, those 10,000 are not 10,000. They are not distinctly 10,000, countably separate 10,000 entities. Although they look like different, they behave differently, they are essentially all that same water. You count the chairs, steel chairs in a room, say 50 chairs. But if you count the material, steel, then there is only one. So with respect to steel, the chairs are non-dual because they do not exist apart from that. So this is just an example. Similarly, with respect to everything in the universe, Brahman is non-dual. Why? It's very easy to understand. If Brahman is existence, now obviously it has to be non-dual, because what can exist apart from existence? Non-dual means nothing exists, no second entity exists apart from this entity, apart from Brahman. If Brahman is existence, to exist apart from existence would mean to become non-existent. So obviously nothing exists apart from Brahman. Brahman has to be non-dual. So this is the meaning of Satchidanandam Advayam Brahma. Brahman is Sat, Chit, Ananda, Advayam. Further details in that talk, Defining God. Now, that's all very good for Brahman. What about this universe? What about this universe? I don't see anywhere, I don't have any experience of this Brahman you're talking about. Pure being, pure consciousness, pure bliss. Who knows what all this is? This sounds pretty abstract. But what I have experience of is the things that I see or hear or smell or taste or touch. The body, my own inner life, my history, my personal life, and all the relationships I have with people around me, the knowledge that I've acquired and I forget. All of this is my experience. What is all this? So the next part, it says, avastu. It's not real. It's an appearance. It's not a countable reality apart from Brahman. Not a second thing, another real thing that Advaita has to talk about. The only real thing we have already mentioned, Brahman. And apart from that, all that you think is apart from it is an appearance of that only. Agyanadi sakala jada samuha avastu. They are all, avastu means not real. What are they? It starts with agyana. Literally, agyana means ignorance. Why he has mentioned ignorance, we'll see later. We can just say he's actually talking about Maya. Starting from Maya downwards. Downwards means all the products, the five elements, our minds and bodies and the external universe, all the stars and galaxies, down to the tiniest entities, living beings, non-living beings, life itself, all of it, all of our human productions, literature and science and everything, all joys and all sufferings, all of that, avastu. What a stunning statement. It's an appearance. It's not the reality. What does he call them? Jada samuha. All the collection. The collection means the totality of all of these items which we see in the universe. They're all jada, insentient, material. Jada also means object. Whatever is an object to consciousness is called jada. So whatever that we can know, think about, designate, they are all objects. And the entire objective realm, the entire material realm, the entire realm of experienced objects, that is called jada, and it's an appearance. Look at the inversion. This is what we consider real. Advaita dismisses all of it, this as an appearance. And what Advaita calls real, we have no inkling about. We are just being introduced to it. But logically, it makes sense. If you think of Brahman as being itself, obviously everything in this universe which exists must be somehow dependent on that being, nothing apart from that being. If we see it as apart from the being, as we are experiencing this universe apart from Brahman, because we don't, apart means we're not actually seeing it apart from Brahman, but we feel it's apart from Brahman because we don't know what Brahman is. We see that this universe existing in itself. All things exist by themselves. No, they don't. Without seeing the underlying reality, if you think that this external universe exists by itself, the way it appears to us, that's what is false. Advaita Vedanta never denies that you see people and tables and chairs, you hear sounds and tastes, all of these experiences, never denies that. But it says there is an underlying reality which you are missing. You don't know the truth about these things. The way we see it, the way we take it to be, that's false. That's not the reality. And that's the source of all mischief. So now we have got it. Text number 33. Vastu, reality. Satchidanandam Advayam Brahma. The reality is Brahman or Brahma. Etymologically meaning the vast, unlimited vastness. What is that? Non-dual. There's nothing second, nothing apart from it, really. Though it may look apart from it, it's not really apart from Brahman. And what is Brahman actually? What can you tell me about it? It is being itself, Sat. It is consciousness itself, Chit. It is bliss itself, Ananda. Okay. Now in doing this, he has already spoken about, he has introduced a new term. In fact, you will say he has introduced two new terms, Brahman and Ajnana or Maya. So now he's going to talk about Ajnana, Maya. What about Brahman? He has already said whatever he wanted to, that it is existence, consciousness, bliss, non-dual, finished. Nothing more is going to talk about it till almost the very end of the book, because we are going to go downstream now, Maya and its products. Why are we going to do that? Because we are going to come down to us. How are we here? And then go back. Superimposition, desuperimposition. So we are now starting to build the castle of dreams, of illusions. We're starting to produce the movie, which is our life now. So the first step in that is Maya. More difficult than Brahman. More difficult than absolute is, how does this absolute become the many? How does the one become the many or appear as the many? Notice, Ajnanadi sakala jada samuha avastu. So Ajnanadi, other Ajnana, etc., or ignorance, etc., down to this entire universe is the appearance, is not the reality. So two things have been mentioned here. Why didn't it just say everything else is unreal? Why did it say ignorance and everything else? Because ignorance is the cause and everything else is the effect. Karya karana. Ignorance is the cause out of which everything else is coined or manufactured. It's like the rope is the reality. and whatever else you imagined that you mistook the rope to be. And some people were walking down and they saw this thing in the semi-darkness, and somebody said, "Oh, it's a snake." Other person said, "No, it's a crack in the earth." This is a classic example from Sanskrit literature. Crack in the earth, bhujidra. Another person said, "No, no, no, it's a pushpamala, a garland which has been discarded from the temple." Now, what was it? It was actually a rope, but three people saw it in three different ways. What is Vedantasara saying? The reality is rope. And everything from ignorance of the rope and everything else, garland, snake, crack in the earth, they are all unreal. The only reality there is the rope. So, okay. Similarly, only reality is Brahman. Maya downwards is everything is an appearance. So Maya is the cause and everything in the universe is the product. Karya Karana, cause effect. Brahman, cause or effect. Brahman is actually not even a cause. It will later be said that Brahman is a cause, but indirectly so. It's a cause of the appearance. It's actually not doing anything. So Brahman is beyond cause and effect. The absolute is beyond cause and effect. Causality starts with Maya. In fact, one of the constituents of Maya is causality. Now we will go to the second one. I'll just go through it quickly and then we'll see if we have questions. Okay. So he used the word ignorance, ajnanam. Now he's going to define this. He's going to talk about it. What is ignorance? What do I mean by ignorance here? Text 34. Ajnanam tu sadasadbhyam anirvachaniyam trigunatmakam jnana virodhi bhavarupam yat kinchiditi vadanti ahamagya ityadi anubhavat devatma shaktim swagunair nigudam ityadi shrutescha. However, ignorance is described as something positive, though intangible, which cannot be described either as being or non-being, which is made of three qualities, is antagonistic to knowledge. Its existence is established from such experiences as I am ignorant and from such Shruti passages as the power belonging to God himself hidden in its own qualities. So what is he saying here? What does he mean by ignorance? By the way, you might think that what's all this discussion about ignorance? We are here to get knowledge. It is the path of knowledge. And most of the discussion is usually about ignorance. There's much more discussion about Maya, about Ajnana in Advaita Vedanta than there is actually about Brahman. Because that's the source. This is the source of all our problems. You might be interested to know that there is a new and exciting field of study today called ignorance studies. Actually, I was surprised. If you look it up, there is a volume called the Routledge Handbook of Ignorance Studies. Routledge has published a huge book of ignorance studies. So what are you studying? Ignorance. I think parents would be less than thrilled if the children go to college and take up. So what are you studying? Ignorance. That's what you're supposed to remove in university, and you're getting a degree. I have like a PhD in ignorance. Actually, the lady who has made this, she's an Oxford, she's a professor in Oxford or some university in England. So she came to give a talk here at the New School in Manhattan. So I attended that talk, and she was editing this volume at that time. And she was surprised to know that ignorance has received so much highly detailed, extensive study in Indian philosophy. She did not know at all. Not just Advaita Vedanta, Buddhism, and many philosophies, Indian philosophies, they dwell at length, and there's so much debate. This is just an introductory text, but you should know that there is hundreds of years of debate. What is this ignorance? Ramanujacharya, so when he attacks Advaita Vedanta in his famous commentary on the Brahma Sutras called the Sri Bhashya, he calls Advaita Vedanta the great opponent, Mahapurva Paksha. And he starts his dialectic against Advaita Vedanta by a sevenfold attack on ignorance. This ajnanam, what you call ajnana, ignorance, that is an impossible concept. It's a faulty concept. And he shows 7 great faults. And then, of course, Advaitins answered all of them. So a lot of discussion is there about this. This is just an outline. I'm saying that because you will feel it sounds difficult and complex. Not at all. This is the simplest, most sweeping overview of the topic. So what is being said here? What is this ignorance? Sad asadbhyam anirvachaniyam. Anirvachaniyam, it cannot be described in words, but again, in a very specific way. When you say anirvachaniyam, vachaniyam means which can be expressed in words. Anirvachaniyam cannot be expressed in language. But here it's not like Brahman. Often we say Brahman is beyond language. So in that sense, ajnana is not beyond language. Is actually there's a very precise way in this in which this term is being used beyond words. What does it mean? It cannot be described in language as is or is not, as real or completely unreal. Sad asat. Sad means pure being, is. What is the definition of Sat? We have just seen. It is isness itself. In Advaita Vedanta, the ultimate reality Sat, there's a definition. Trikala badhitatvam satyatvam. That which cannot be negated in all three periods of time, in the past, present, and future, that is ultimately real. Notice something like the snake is negated. The moment you realize it's a rope, the snake is found to be false. That is negation. In Sanskrit, badha. But suppose there is something which can never be found to be false. It is always there. The mirage water seems like water. When you go there, false. It's not there. So that's not real. We say it's not real. Oh, the mirage, it's a mirage. It's not really water. Oh, it's a rope. It's not really a snake. We have corrected it. But suppose there is something which can never be corrected in this way. What about the world? This universe? So that for example, you said that it was not a snake and we saw it's a rope, so it's corrected. The snake has been proved to be false, but the rope is true, isn't it? The universe is true, isn't it? Science has given us true discoveries, isn't it? No, even all this universe which we see, our waking reality, which we take to be our reality, this itself is falsified when Brahma Jnana comes. When rope knowledge comes, the snake is falsified. When you see the desert for what it is, the water in the mirage is falsified. When you realize Brahman, the world is falsified. What we just saw in the 33rd text. So the world cannot be held to be absolutely true. Because what is the definition of reality according to Vedanta? That which cannot be falsified, ever. That which cannot be rejected, which cannot be negated, which cannot be corrected, ever. Think about one thing, logically speaking. This question can arise. People ask this question. All right, suppose you realize that this world is not real and you find this Brahman, whatever it is, you become enlightened. But what is there to stop this process? You can one day find Brahman itself is false and find something else deeper than Brahman, higher than Brahman. How do you know? Why will you say Brahman is the ultimate and there's no end, there's nothing beyond that? How do you know that Brahman itself will not be corrected one day? Tell me, it's logically impossible. You can't do that. Why? Take, for example, consciousness. Brahman is consciousness itself. Now, to negate consciousness, what is the form of negation? This is not X, it is Y. And this is not a snake, it is a rope. This is not water, it is the desert. It's a mirage. So, to make a correction of this form, this is the form of the correction. Oh, I realize it's not X, it's Y. Can you do that to consciousness? Oh, it is not consciousness. It is non-consciousness. How can you do that without consciousness? The one thing required for correction of an error is consciousness. No, it can never apply to consciousness itself. Even more deeply, existence itself. The one thing required for correction is existence. The correcting agent must exist. You can never correct yourself out of existence. This isness. So is there something higher, but one day it will be proved to be false? What will that falsity be like? Oh, now I realize I am not. And then will I vanish? No, that can't happen. The one which realizes something, that one must exist. That one must be conscious. So Logically speaking, isness awareness, sat chit, cannot be corrected, cannot be negated, just logically. But so sad asadhyam anirvachaniyam, that maya or ajnanam is that which cannot be classified as ultimate reality. Why? Because when you become enlightened, ajnana, ignorance, is removed, is negated. Ignorance goes away. When you get knowledge, aham brahmasmi, knowledge arises, ignorance goes away. So because it is corrected, because it goes away, because it is negated, it cannot be the ultimate reality. You cannot say it is in the ultimate sense. Then why not say it is not? It is completely unreal. There's nothing there at all. You can't say that. But because of this maya, because of this ignorance, we are experiencing this whole world. Seeing that all of this appears to us, seeing that we have to read Vedanta, we have the problem of samsara, bondage and liberation. How can you say it's nothing? You can't dismiss it as absolutely nothing. There's something going on here. And yet it is not the ultimate reality. So you cannot classify it as ultimately real because it disappears, it is corrected upon enlightenment. You cannot dismiss it as completely unreal because it is experienced. You see it, you are in it. The ultimately real thing cannot be corrected, cannot be negated, Brahman. And you need not negate it because it's perfectly all right. You cannot and you need not. This thing, Maya, it can be negated and you need to negate it, or ajnana, ignorance. It has to be corrected and you need to correct it. The absolutely unreal, that too cannot be corrected. So that which does not exist at all, it cannot be corrected and you need not correct it also. It does not appear at all. Why do you need to correct it? What is an example of an absolutely unreal thing? So the classic example they give, the son of a barren mother, or the square circle, or the kapushpas, flower in the sky, different things. What is the characteristic of absolutely not existing? In Sanskrit, asat. It does not exist and you do not experience it. It does not exist, you do not experience it. What is the characteristic of the absolute real? Absolutely real, you do not experience it as an object, but it exists, it is. And what is the characteristic of this Maya and its products? It does not exist and yet it appears. You cannot say it does not exist at all, you experience it. This is very important because everything that we experience according to Advaita Vedanta, all that we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, all our vyavahara, our society and politics and elections and science, literature, warfare, everything is conducted in Maya. It is all of this category. It is not an absolute reality, but it's not unreal either. It's not absolutely unreal either. So it is called sad asadbhyam anirvachaniyam. This is the absolute reality cannot be negated and you need not negate it. The absolutely unreal also cannot be negated and you need not negate it. It does not come up at all. Why will you negate it? It's not there at all. But this one can be negated. Maya or ignorance can be negated and should be negated because it is the source of all our problems. This may sound very abstract, but it's actually very simple. Consider three things: speaking the truth, not speaking silence, and telling a lie. Speaking a lie. So speaking the truth is like that absolute reality. It cannot be challenged because it's true. You cannot correct it. Keeping quiet, that also cannot be challenged. What will you challenge? He has not said anything. That cannot be corrected also. What will you correct? Nothing has been said. It's silent. So that's like the absolutely unreal, asat. But telling a lie is like that, this maya, this ignorance. You have said, somebody, it has been said. So something was said, but it's not true. So it needs to be challenged and corrected. So this is an example I came up with. It's very nice. So three things: telling the truth, keeping silent, and telling a lie. Telling the truth is like Brahman, the absolute. Cannot be challenged and should not be challenged, need not be challenged. Silent, keeping silent is like the absolutely unreal. Nothing is there at all. So like a square circle or the examples they give. Nothing appears. It's not experienced at all. So keeping quiet, it cannot be challenged. And it need not be challenged and it should not be challenged also. There's nothing there. But telling a lie, it has to be challenged. Something has been said, but it's not true. It can be challenged, should be challenged, and one must correct it. So this is sad asadbhyam anirvachaniyam. Neither absolutely real, cannot be classified as absolutely real, cannot be classified as unreal, totally unreal either. A strange in-between thing. And as I said, like telling a lie, it's not unknown to us. We know many such things. Fiction. So fairy tales or Harry Potter story, is it real? No. Is it nothing? No, of course not. It's fiction. It's a story. So what's the status of a story? You cannot classify it as truth, but you cannot classify it as completely non-existent also. So it's in between. Art is like that. Fiction is like that. In fact, Advaita Vedanta insists everything that we experience falls in that category. Sadasadbhyam anirvachaniyam. Then Trigunatmakam. What is this ignorance made of? Three qualities. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. See, this is all borrowed from Sankhya. So here, what Sankhya calls Prakriti, nature, the source of the entire universe, made of three qualities. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. And they have reasons for that. We're not going into that. So what is Maya made of? What is Ajnana made of? Ignorance made of? Or another name is Prakriti, nature. What is it made of? Three qualities. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. That's why it is called Trigunatmakam, made of three qualities. Its essence is basically three qualities. Then important, Jnana Virodhi, opposed to knowledge. Opposed to knowledge. Opposed to knowledge in what way? It is destroyed by knowledge. It does not destroy knowledge, though it can obstruct knowledge, but it does not destroy knowledge. It is destroyed by knowledge. Just like darkness is removed by light, ignorance is removed by knowledge. So one characteristic of this ignorance is it's destroyed by knowledge. Jnana Virodhi. Not that it destroys knowledge. So if knowledge is there and ignorance is there, what will happen? Will the ignorance overcome knowledge? No. Knowledge will always overcome ignorance. Just like we see in our day-to-day life. I don't know, suppose I don't know Sanskrit. The moment I try getting knowledge about Sanskrit, my ignorance of Sanskrit disappears. So ignorance is destroyed by knowledge. That's the meaning of Jnana Virodhi. Why I'm stressing this is, so at this point, so traditional Pandits will tell a story. We all read this story in India in Amar Chitra Katha comics, the story of the demon Vritrasura. Vritrasura was a great demon. The story goes, Indra, the king of the gods, had offended one of the sages who was a guru to the demons. And he had actually inadvertently killed that sage's son. So anyway, the sage was furious. And so what the sage did was, he started a Vedic fire sacrifice where it would produce a great demon who would destroy Indra. That was the plan, that it would be a supernatural being created by this power of the Vedic sacrifices. And this demon would go and destroy Indra, and all the other demons would come and they would conquer heaven, and the gods would be dispossessed of heaven. So those who grew up in India, we remember those Amar Chitra Katha comics. That's where I first read this story. But the story is interesting that in Vedic sacrifices, the chanting of the mantra has to be precise. Otherwise, depending upon your intonation, the meaning will be different. So the gods were very worried. They already had heard about this great sacrifice about to occur, So they wanted to mess it up. So like interference in elections, Russia is interfering like that. They wanted to interfere in the great sacrifice. So I think it was Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge, who is in charge of pronunciation, who came on the tongue of the sage when he was about to chant the mantra and changed the intonation, made a mistake. So the mantra was to be Indra Shatrun Vardhaswa. So there is a certain up and down to that, which means let the enemy of Indra emerge or grow from this fire. Now, the intonation was wrong, the way the Rishi chanted it, thanks to the meddling of hacking done by Saraswati. And the meaning became, let the one whose enemy is Indra, let that one emerge. The point was to have the one whose enemy is Indra is to emerge. Enemy means the one whom he will destroy. The demon is going to destroy Indra. Let that demon emerge. But the meaning became, because of the change in in the pronunciation, the meaning became, let the demon who will be destroyed by Indra, let that demon emerge. So Vritrasura came up, but there was a programming error in the very root of it. Nobody knew that. And he was initially very successful. If you see the comic books, they're full of fighting, and Vritrasura is going and defeating Indra, and they all run to, obviously, whenever they are defeated by the Asuras, they will run to Vishnu. They'll complain to Vishnu, and Vishnu will give them some idea what to do. He said, you go to this great sage, Dadichi, who is very powerful by his austerities, and you ask for his bones. With his bones of this sage, you make a weapon, the thunderbolt. And with that thunderbolt, you can kill this demon. So there's a whole story within story. They go to the sage, and the sage says, yes, I'm not attached to the body. I'm not the body. So if the body is going to help people, you can take my body, you can take my bones. He sat in meditation and he gave up his body. And with his bones, Indra made his weapon, the thunderbolt, Vajra, the thunderbolt. So it's made with the bones of a rishi. And then he, of course, killed Vritra. The point of this elaborate story is that Jnana Virodhi. So Jnana Virodhi means that which is destroyed by knowledge, not that which destroys knowledge. Just like the demon. Jnana Virodhi, Bhava Rupam. We've almost run out of time. Let me quickly run through this. Bhava Rupam, something positive. Okay, what's going on here? The next term is Bhava Rupam, something positive. What's going on is this. The moment you use the term Ajnana, ignorance, Ajnana, ignorance, our usual way of understanding ignorance is a lack of knowledge, absence of knowledge. The Sanskrit word ajnana, means not, negation, and that negation can have multiple meanings. Is ignorance an absence of knowledge, or is it something positive? Is ignorance an absence? This is nothing. Or is it something positive? The non-dualist, Advaitin, they want to prove that ignorance is something positive. Why? Bhava Rupa means something positive. Why? Because, first of all, it has all these effects. If it was nothing, just an absence, how could it lead to the creation of the entire universe as we see it and our samsara? How can something emerge out of nothing? Second reason is that all the activity of Vedanta, all of this which we're trying to do, we're doing it to remove ignorance. If ignorance is just an absence, an emptiness to be filled with knowledge, why do all this exercise? Why is there so need to remove an absence? You can't remove an absence when nothing is there. There is something which has to be removed. And it is a positive something which gives rise to so much trouble. It is something that modern ignorance studies experts would firmly agree. If you look at the contents of that Rutledge Handbook of Ignorance Studies, I looked it up before the class. I just remembered that lady and thought whether it has been published or not. And I saw it has been published. And so if you see the contents, all the trouble that ignorance is responsible for in economics, in warfare, in politics, ignorance generates so much of our samsara. Advaita says all of our samsara is generated by ignorance. It's not nothing. It's a force. It's a something. So it says bhava rupam. Is very careful here. If he stresses too much on the bhava rupam, it will become a reality like Brahman. Then there you can charge them with dualism, Brahman and ignorance. But Advaitin is caught in a sticky position here. Advaitin cannot agree to ignorance being nothing for deeper reasons. I'll just trace out the nature of this bhava rupa, ignorance as something rather than nothing. You realize where the question is coming from, because when you say ignorance, it could just be an absence of knowledge. There's no knowledge. That's ignorance. No knowledge is there. That's what you're calling ignorance. And Advaitin does not want that position. Why? Couple of reasons quickly. One form of absence of knowledge could be what is called in Sanskrit samanya jnana abhava. Absence of knowledge in general. Absence of knowledge in general means absence of awareness in general. In general, nothing is known. Nothing is known. So no specific ignorance that I don't know physics or chemistry or Sanskrit, just I don't know, it's blank. And he says that is not possible, because the very nature of the knower is awareness or consciousness. Even to say that there is a general ignorance about everything, and that is an absence, nothing is there, you need consciousness to illumine that nothing. You see, one kind of absence of knowledge would be a general absence of awareness. But general absence of awareness, like a universal absence of awareness, is not possible, because the moment you say such a thing is there, to whom was it revealed? It must be revealed to some awareness. You see, in contrast to that, when we have a specific ignorance, I don't know, suppose I don't know French. Now I am aware, and I'm aware of the absence of my knowledge about a specific thing called French. But just absence of awareness in itself, impossible. You can't even you can't even posit such a thing. To whom or to what will this be revealed? That will be awareness. Okay. Then the question would be, all right, let ignorance be an absence of specific things. Let ignorance be an absence of specific things. But when we say I am ignorant, the general form that ignorance is not of a specific thing. It is when we say I don't know. When you say I don't know physics, I don't know chemistry, I don't know Vedanta, I don't know Sanskrit, notice something. That I don't know is of the same sort everywhere. To explain, if you say I know Sanskrit, I know French, then your knowledge of French and knowledge of Sanskrit are different. Clearly, you have got a lot of information, unique knowledge, which is called your French knowledge. A lot of information, unique knowledge, which is called your Sanskrit knowledge. But when we say I don't know French and I don't know Sanskrit, there's nothing specific about it. The don't know in both cases is just a blankness. There is nothing unique about this blankness and that blankness. Do you see that? It's a kind of underlying ignorance. There is, if you try to find out the texture of that ignorance, how is the ignorance of Sanskrit different from the ignorance of French? The ignorance itself, it is just a blankness. You're just aware that there is something called Sanskrit, I don't know, there's something called French, I don't know. But then the ignorance is not like the knowledge of Sanskrit and French, because knowledge of Sanskrit is a very rich, many things are there. Knowledge of French is very rich, many things are there. The two are quite different from each other. But then if you are ignorant about both, the ignorance of both will be the similar thing, like a blankness about each. So ignorance is also not absence of ignorance is not an absence with specific qualities. So what have we got so far? If you say ignorance is an absence, it could be a general absence of knowledge. We saw that's not possible. General absence of awareness, we saw it's not possible. Or it could be the absence of specific types. But there is no difference in the absence of specific types. There are no absences of specific types. The absence is a general kind of absence which you find in all kinds of ignorance, that I don't know. Okay. What comes of this? That ignorance cannot be simply an absence. You see, absence of two kinds: general absence, specific absences. Both are not possible. There is ignorance which is not an absence. Another example used, I'll just mention it and stop, is in deep sleep. In deep sleep, when we wake up after deep sleep, it is actually we have experienced a blankness. And that blankness is not just an absence. It's not just, it was not nothing. It was a consciousness shining on a blankness. In Sanskrit, they call ajnana upahita chaitanyam. Consciousness associated with ignorance. That's what was there in deep sleep. So that also proves that ignorance is not an absence. It's not nothing. It is a kind of something. So is it a reality like Brahman? Back to the old problem. Then he says, yat kinchid. It is an intangible something, neither an ultimate reality like Brahman, but not totally unreal either. Yat kinchit. Is all this theoretical, or is there any experience to prove it? He says, of course there is. Vadanti aham agya ityadi anubhavat. There's all of us experience ignorance when we say, I do not know. In this case, You are told you are Brahman, and our response is, I don't know this. That is ignorance. That is ignorance, which is not there in the case of an enlightened person. It is there in our case. When we phenomenologically investigate our experiences, we feel, I don't know what this thing they're talking about. My infinite consciousness, that I am an infinite being. I don't know this. This I don't know. Vadanti aham agya. I don't know. This is the experience of ignorance. It is there. And then a quotation from the Upanishads to prove it. Shvetashvatara Upanishad. This is actually a description of Maya. Devatma Shaktim Swaguneir Nigudham. So Deva means the consciousness. Atma means the ultimate self, Paramatma. Shakti, power of that ultimate self. Swaguneir Nigudham, hidden by its own qualities. What is the qualities? Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. So here is a scriptural support for this concept of Ajnana, ignorance, which will later he will call it Maya. Stop. So the two most important concepts that we'll ever come across in Advaita Vedanta are text number 33 and 34. Let me see. Jayant, are there questions?
Yes, Maharaj. Shravani, you can go next.
Pranam Maharaj, there is about Brahman, there is another famous saying in Advaita, Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya.
Yes.
So there Satya, that's also translated as real.
Yes.
And their real is, I came across like in various discussions, it's like the unchanging or permanent. That is
Yes.
that definition and Satchid Anand, like what we discussed today, they how do they like fall in place?
They are exactly the same. When you say Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, it means Brahman is real and the world is an appearance. Mithya means false, an appearance. That's exactly what we heard. Did you notice? Vastu Satchidanandam Advayam Brahma. The ultimate reality is existence, consciousness, bliss, non-dual Brahman. That is what you just called Brahma Satyam. And Jagat Mithya, world is false. What did we hear? Ajnanadi Sakala Jada Samuha Vastu. What is unreal? Starting from Ajnana or Maya down to everything in the universe, all the material universe is an appearance, Jagat Mithya. Then you said, so that definition of Satyatvam, of reality, is this what we just heard? Yes. What did I just say? What is reality? Trikala abhadi tattvam satyatvam, that which is not negated in three periods of time, past, present, and future, which cannot be negated. That is the real thing. Didn't you just say Brahman is that which is eternal, permanent, that which cannot be dismissed, negated, destroyed, corrected, changed in any way in past, present, and future? That is Brahman. Correct.
But then when we perceive everything with our intellect and senses, we almost reach a wall where we don't see anything we can't really gauge anything that's permanent and unchanged. Everything seems changing.
Correct. So whatever we see with our senses, whatever we understand with our intellect is this universe, what he just called Jada Samuha, the material universe. And that he said is false. And when you say it is changing, you are saying exactly what they are saying, that yes, that is the characteristic of falsity, that it changes.
So we just accept it with faith that there is such a thing which we are not able to perceive now as that's unchanging, and that
is the promise of Advaita Vedanta. You temporarily hold on to it as faith. We are going to show you. I'm actually going to show you the unchanging. Here, now it is available.
And in verse 33, I think the consciousness.
Text 33.
Text 33 is consciousness is translated as knowledge. Maharaj, how?
So knowledge means here it means consciousness. Knowledge is after consciousness. Consciousness plus mind and sense organs interacting with the objects gives knowledge. Here it means knowledge itself. Swami Vivekananda put it this way: not that Brahman exists, it is existence itself. Not that Brahman knows, it is knowledge itself. Knowledge itself means what? Consciousness. What is the one thing common? I said, remember, what is the one thing common to all our knowledge? Whatever you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, whatever you think, remember, understand, Imagine, in all of that, one thing is common. What is it essentially? It is consciousness. All the other things come and go. All perceptions and thoughts are different from each other. But what is not different in every knowledge? Consciousness. If you're impatient, how can I discover this permanent thing right here and now? You know what your question is like. You are saying that in all the ornaments that we see, gold, and all the ornaments that we see, you're seeing a bracelet and a necklace and a ring. They all come and go. Nothing is permanent here. The bracelet is melted and they made into a ring. Ring is melted and made into a necklace. But you are saying there is something permanent in all of this called gold. We don't see that. We have to take it on faith. Do you have to take the gold on faith? When the same piece of gold is made into a ring and given to you, then it is melted, you want a necklace. A necklace is given to you. Melted and made into a bangle, that is given to you. And somebody says, the ornaments are temporary. You saw yourself. The form has changed, the name has changed, the use has changed, nama rupa vihava are continuously changing. But you are saying there's something permanent called gold, but it just have to believe in it. No, it is the only thing that is real. You don't recognize it. Why don't you recognize? See, same superimposition, desuperimposition. Having forgotten the gold, now you are seeing it as a bracelet and necklace and ring. The gold is there all the time. When the bracelet, ring, necklace, name and form are removed means in our understanding only, they're removed. And you see the thing for what it is. No matter what the form and name, you see it is the underlying gold alone. That is called desuperimposition. Adhyaropa apavada.
Yeah, just a quick note here. That both gold and the ornaments are something we can perceive with our intellect and sense. They're in that realm. But here we are talking about something that's
true. Because an example there's a limitation of example. What example will you find? Now, if the Shravani is impatient for enlightenment, so then you go to that link I gave you, defining God. And there, if you follow the whole lecture, you will see we are pointing out that existence consciousness place, this Brahman, just like gold, here and now, in your experience, not pushed to the future, not a matter of belief. If all this is right, it has to be present here and now. You will see it has been presented there, here and now.
Okay, Swami, thank
you. Try to follow that carefully. You will see how, just like gold, it is being presented to you. Not as an object, of course, but it is constantly available to us. Just as gold is available in every ornament. Okay.
Thank you.
Girish, you can unmute yourself.
Swamiji, if I recall correctly, you said before that we should not obsess too much on the nature of Maya or try to figure out why it exists. We should just accept it after a while and move forward.
Yes.
Is it because it's a necessary pillar of this non-dual metaphysic? Hello?
Yes. Is it because?
It's a necessary pillar of non-duality. I mean, you cannot have non-duality without having...
It is because it's not that you cannot, they're prohibiting you, that it is banned to discuss Maya. No. That immediately attracts all kinds of opponents. And it has been in fact discussed threadbare in great detail, because that's the weak link. The absolute Brahman, all right, what can you say about it? Nothing much. So it has been discussed threadbare. Even the concept of anirvachanam. Anirvachanam means you cannot designate as ultimately real or as ultimately false. This concept itself has been examined with such great ferocity by the Madhva Dvaitins. So there's a text called Nyayamrita, where the question, the very first question is raised, is that Kimidam mithyatvam yatvam sadhyate. What is this falsity you people, non-dualists, are talking about? And then he takes up the concept of anirvachanya, that it cannot be said to be existing, cannot be said to be non-existing, and then gives what is the meaning of this statement, and then divides it into 4 possibilities and shows all 4 are contradictory. And then Madhusudan Saraswati comes in and shows that all 4 are logically tenable, and so on. So it has been discussed in excruciating detail, actually.
Hello, Maharaj, Pranam. You just mentioned that this concept of qualities, the gunas, have been taken from Sankhya,
Yes.
but I thought the Sankhya philosophy is much later than Advaita.
No, as a philosophy, it's much earlier. You can say it has been taken, Advaitins will claim that we have taken it all from the Upanishads. It's true. It's there, for example, Shvetashvatara Upanishad itself talks about the gunas. It is true. But the whole idea of Prakriti being composed of the three gunas, this was developed by Sankhyans. Swami Vivekananda says, Kapila was the first philosopher of the human race. So Advaita Vedanta, as it is formulated today, is very much a Johnny come lately. So for example, when you find the great debates between the Buddhists and the Hindus, it's generally between Buddhist philosophers and Sankhyans or Nyayikas. Advaitins come much later. Yes. All right then. Anybody else? I think Rick was Vinod, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Vinod, you can unmute yourself.
Swamiji, this is Vinod here, Pranam. So how for somebody who's trying to follow the karma path, if you assume that Brahman is real and the ultimate truth, how could you use it in your life for making the right decisions? We are presented with choices in our day-to-day life, in our job, at home, or anywhere. So how can we use this to make the right decisions in our decision-making process?
Let me tell you, but first let me share this video with you also. This is, I think, the talk on Maya. So the two talks I'm sharing with you. Talks on Swami Vivekananda. So one was the talk on Brahman, defining Brahman. This one is the talk on Maya. Swami Vivekananda gave 3 talks on Maya. And in this one, I have sort of generally summarized what Swami Vivekananda said. I gave this talk maybe a couple of years ago here in the Vedanta Society. So those who are interested, you can see. So these are the 2 talks, one on Brahman and one on Maya. Guidelines, there are many. All of ethics, Swami Vivekananda derives from this idea of Brahman and Maya. So in which class did I share that Swami Bhajananandji's ontological ethics of Swami Vivekananda? In this class or in the Gita class? In this class. Did you get that article, Vinod?
Yes, Swamiji, I did.
Yes. So you just read that article, Ontological Ethics of Swami Vivekananda. At the end of that article, after discussing theories of ethics, then he comes to what is the implication of this Advaitic theory for ethics as guidelines. I think that you will find 10 points. I have myself marked out 10 points with a pen. The 10 implications, like strength, like service, and like unselfishness. These are all they're flowing from this Advaitic idea. If this is true, then how should we live our life?
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you. All right then. We'll wrap it up here today and we'll proceed next time. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.